is distracted as he turns to Norman. Using this moment, reckless abandon, with his last burst of strength, pulls his knife from his sheath and stabs into the creature, knocking them both from the bridge, and they tumble down to the mountainside. Norman, remembering the Oni's reluctance to let them proceed up these stairs, rushes up the bridge, hoping to find something within that will help end the chaos. He enters a large, cavernous stone room with a balcony at the end. More stone golems line the walls, and a huge metal sword is plunged into the ground before a great stone throne. As he approaches, a huge, deep, rumbling voice cries out to him in giant from the throne. He does not understand. A figure looks over his shoulder and sees Norman.
You are not who I expected. Why do you disturb me from my prophecy?
It is a storm giant.
Exactly. Welcome to Challenge Raiders. It's a D&D show. We talk about a monster from 5e. We talk about it while I draw it. My name's Theo.
I'm Neil, social media manager.
And I'm Sam.
We have reached the peak of this mountain that Norman's been going up. A lonely giant sitting on a throne. Storm giants. Giants in general. There's a lot. I guess we should talk about giants briefly as a thing.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that there's a little description right at the beginning of the giant section, which if I read, I think it sums up all giants pretty well. Old as legend in remote regions of the world, the last remaining plinths, monoliths, and statues of the great giant empires bow their heads in desolate obscurity. Where once their empires sprawled across all lands, now the giants dwell in isolated tribes and clans.
There you go.
I think that sums up all the giants pretty good.
Yeah, all giant society had a golden age. Again, this is in the lore, but I think it's good lore. This is lore that I would use. There was a long forgotten golden age of giant society when they waged wars, they built things, and they did stuff. But that has long gone, and now they sit around, not really necessarily pining for glory, but just going, yeah. But we're talking about storm giants specifically, and there's this thing in the giants called the Ordering, where they are ranked basically based on what kind of giant they are, but then within the Ordering, and the tippy-toppest is the storm giants, and then the tippy-toppest of them, I guess, is the storm giant quintessence, who we're not talking about right now.
Not today.
But yeah, they have this very rigid, I guess, a feudal system of some sort, but it's
a caste.
Very racist system.
It's a caste. Yeah, no, it's a meritocracy. They're the highest challenge rating, so they deserve to be the ones in charge.
It's a challengeocracy.
An expocracy.
Wait, you do challenge rating 9? If not, you can't enter this bar. 9 or
We
higher.
don't serve your kind here.
Yeah, storm giants are, I think that are they the most good? Because giants range from chaotic evil to I think
they're the
chaotic
most good.
They are good.
They are chaotic good.
Strictly speaking, they're good.
Cloud giants can be neutral good 50% of the time.
Yeah, but
which
again,
I guess is more good.
Ian, the storm giant is the chaotic good one, which I think is the. Okay, again, according to the book, they are all chaotic good. Obviously, that's not true. Something you can have one do whatever you want. Yeah, they have some interesting stuff in their lore and their what their role is meant to be, and it's split into 3 categories in their description: distant prophet kings, detached oracles, and solitary lives. So storm giants are obsessed with omens and predicting the future. As far as I can tell from their actual stats, they don't have any magical means of seeing the future, but they are just as a society prophetic and like to look into, and as they have these long lives, they maybe see patterns and have a better understanding of the way things work, and thus can make predictions about the future, I suppose.
I think a lot of the weird cloud giants and stuff have these divination powers in Volos and stuff.
Yeah. Again, there is more to that, but yeah, they foretell the rise and fall of kings. They see beginnings and ends, and they read omens and do prophesizing. They serve the purpose of sitting on a mountain and thinking, not doing a whole lot. We've got ours on top of a mountain, but they also sometimes sit at the bottom of the ocean because they can breathe underwater, and storms happen in the sea.
They do. Yep.
So this is also a good one to have, at the bottom of the sea, which is kind of interesting.
One cool thing about this description as well is that their own god abandoned them.
That's right. Yeah. The giant. From what I can remember, like the giants worship they have a hero worship thing as well. So like they had a god, Anam, and then he went off, and they were like, okay, well, I guess we'll worship the children of Anam, who I think are just like heroic giant stuff, which is very Norse, and they are very Norse themed, as you might expect, because that's a big giant thing anyway.
And honestly, if you wanted a Norse god statted, I think you couldn't go very far wrong with a storm giant being that.
Yeah. Again, Children 13, so it's pretty high, and if you've got a party that's not going to go past 10, then the storm giant can very easily function as some sort of celestial creature. No problems there at all.
But yeah, like, just the giant lore that there is just quite interesting, that these guys are like written as stoic, almost vigils over what's left of the world. And part of the adventure that came out, Storm King's Thunder, not too long ago, basically, from memory, I don't know if this is spoilers, but part of the plot of that is basically that the Storm King disappears, and he's been keeping all of the other giants in check.
Okay, right. That's cool.
So then all the other giants go crazy, and you're trying to find out what's happened.
That's cool.
And I kind of like the idea that they all kind of do they follow this hierarchy, even though it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. It's also interesting to think about the fact that the most important, most powerful giants are the only, like, really good ones, and they are keeping all these other ones who are kind of unpleasant and evil, to certain degrees, in check.
A lot of them have very ulterior motives, to say the least.
And nothing's to say that, for instance, I don't know why we would say this, but if one of them went mad or was corrupted or turned evil for any reason, he couldn't turn these upon the world or his own forces or want to rebuild a fallen empire.
There's the thing, I can't remember where it says it exactly, but they live for so long, and they live... It's kind of like how when we're talking about the genie, they are good creatures, but they have a very different, like, perspective on the world. So what they consider good might not necessarily be what the player characters consider good. Oh, a year to them is nothing, so they won't consider that to be a long period of time to, like, have let something go lapse, or like, oh, oops, my influence has been used to hire mercenaries to go sack towns. Oh, it's been going on for a few weeks. Oh, that's good thing I caught it just now then. Good thing we caught it right as early. No problem. It's fine. Again, the words detached oracles. They're not evil at all, necessarily, but they don't understand time or consequences in the same way.
I'll have to think about this for a year before I realise if...
Exactly,
They go for, the end. Yeah. I think it also... It mentions it in two separate occasions on the same page about how even though they're good, like, if they're made angry or they can be, their mind bends to a certain way, like, it's a really bad time for the entire, like, landscape around them.
Like a storm.
Like,
they're angry.
If angered, like, it says that it can affect the fate of thousands, and then at the bottom of the page it talks about how that their mind could be bent towards greed, or if they gain a taste for petty power. So even if they do end up involving themselves in the world, that might not necessarily be a good thing.
Yeah. So again, the idea of having this, like, lost glory is, like, a really good motivation to have a storm giant
reclaim that glory.
Exactly, being somewhat evil, because they might think
doing the right
to them, for perfectly reasonable, that by restoring their power, that's going to be to the benefit of everyone, and thus good.
It's the old thing where, good villains in their own eyes are the good guys.
Exactly. And I think that's always true. And the difference between having a villain who is also alignment-wise good, they are not doing it for selfish reasons, where someone who's evil might think they're doing good, and they're gaining something out of it, whereas a storm giant would do something that's evil, thinking it's, and maybe even thinking, I'm sullying myself by doing this, but it's going to be for the benefit of everyone.
The storm giant could be very much negotiated with as well as a villain.
Yes.
I was going to say, like, for instance, you treat a section of giant territory that nobody seems to be living in, and nobody lives there for a reason. It's because of it's technically all the domain of, like, this one guy, and people have learned not to settle there. But say there's a campaign where you settle an area that's full of ruins. And it's
Yeah,
almost like
yeah,
settling near a fallen empire in Stellaris, you know?
Yes.
Like,
Well, the other thing, of course, is that if you go look in history, real history, people didn't climb mountains until relatively recently because they were like, that's hard, and
You'll
the
die.
gods are up there. So if you could have like a medieval civilization who's basically at the foot of the mountain that has giants on it,
But why would they go up there?
and they never go up there because why would you? Also, gods up there, and
There's
he's
no
a giant.
food and it's cold and yeah, God's there.
Yeah, it's very hard.
yeah, and like, for instance, he has turned his ire towards a town because he wants it abandoned, and your quest could be, we know vaguely about these, the wizard knows vaguely about these. You know what? We're gonna pay tribute to him like you would to say a Chinese emperor in that kind of real life. You know, where you'd pay tribute to the emperor.
Yeah.
Like there could be a cool quest where you're delivering a gift for just to get him to stop attacking your town, because maybe it's an entity that's it's just. He's now an entity in an area that's a force of nature that kind of once you deal with him, he's going to leave you alone.
I think, or even like maybe there are hill giants who are like the stupid ones who are attacking your town. You're like, we've got to go ask the storm giant who they will like listen to tell them to stop or get some order in it. I think that could be good as well.
I just want to say one last thing about giants in general is that they hate dragons.
They hate them
do.
so much.
They do hate
Can't
dragons.
stand dragons. That was their big war, which they won or
I think
lost.
we touched on that in
question mark?
Bahir, didn't we?
Yes,
We did mention
'cause
that, yes.
Behirs are the kind of awful creations that the giants turn dragons into. And
Yeah.
I was just going to say that normally we start crunching the numbers, but we didn't do that. So would we like to crunch some numbers?
Let's crunch these numbers because I think what we've talked about will be interesting to refer to with the
Storm
numbers.
giant stats are really, really, really good.
Really good, are they?
Really, really good. Like they're good at everything. Obviously the big one that kicks out is 29 strength.
That's a lot of strength.
Which I think like the Tarask is stronger and like maybe one or two other things maybe.
This guy could wrestle a kraken like that.
Yeah.
And of course, both underwater creatures potentially, so that very
That
cool
could be
potential
sick,
fight.
dude.
Yeah.
He's got some
yes.
like really good skills, like plus 14 athletics, like history perception, like saving throws are so strong. Like
Yeah.
he's just really great. Like his
Oh,
low
God,
stats
yeah.
dex just 14, but like strength saving throw of plus 14, con plus 10, wisdom plus 9, charisma plus 9. Like a lot of spell effects aren't gonna land on this guy.
His lowest stat is Dex, but he still has +2 to it. It's not like he's not. He's quick and Dex.
He's got a really good health pool. 16 AC's all right. You know, he's wearing some scale mail.
For a big creature, it's not gonna get much
Yeah.
better than that. I guess it's kind of with 230 HP. That's okay. That's fine.
We've talked about kind of orcs, like with like the
Yeah.
dexterity, and I feel that with things like this dex, it's just referring to their speed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he's got
But having
speed
such a-
50, which is quite fast.
He's a fast lad. Yeah.
Big strides.
Big. He's huge. He could, he's taking
I like-
one stride for your like 7.
I like that they have history trained.
Yeah, that's
That
cool.
makes sense.
That's
It makes
very
it,
cool,
it fits into their character totally.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, looking at immunities, they have immunities and resistances. I didn't realize they had resistance as well. Because they've got immunity to lightning, as you might expect, and thunder as a storm.
Makes sense.
That's it's rare that you see something with 2 immunities. That could shut down like a whole character. Like if you've got a bard who's got all the thunder spells and I can do nothing. But yeah, also having resistance to cold on top of that that's a lot of stuff. Although there's not many cold damage.
It makes
sorcerers
perfect
in
sense.
Warhammer.
I think that I think going in to fight this guy, the second the fight begins, you'd assume all this.
Yeah, you wouldn't be like, well,
You could gauge
you'd
it
probably
fairly
think-
easily. Yeah.
You would think like, I'm not gonna throw a lightning bolt at this guy. That seems pointless.
No, because he'll throw a lightning strike right back at you.
I really like that in languages he actually does know Common, because
I was
I don't
literally
think
about to say
any
that.
of the other giants know Common.
They do not. I checked that earlier today. I
That's
was
really
like,
interesting. I guess
It-
he'd be the one that would take the time to observe and learn.
But it's just kind of interesting because like there's no like underling. I guess like all the underlings of the storm giants are not really going to be able to communicate with regular people. So that's like an interesting area of like tension that getting to meet with a storm giant could resolve because they're getting over that barrier.
Yeah. They got some at will spells.
Levitate.
They can cast levitate at will.
Levitate and feather fall. So this is when you are like you're in the you're falling from you've been dropped from a great height and you're falling through the cloud city, giant cloud city, and then the storm giant's like, I guess I'll save you. Feather falls here.
Or he jumps from the mountain.
Or he jumps from the top all the way down. It's like, I'm just gonna feather fall.
And of course, levitate can be cast on other people with no save. So you just like in the middle of the fight, he just lifts the fighter into the air and then leaves them alone.
Oh god, yeah. That could be quite cool, actually. And they do have water breathing as a spell that they cast 3 times a day. So obviously that's, again, if you meet one underwater and you don't have like a continuous source of water breathing and he's friendly to you, that could be a nice little thing. He could save some people like that. Yep. And his control weather, I don't remember off the top of my head how good control weather is as a spell.
He can cause like localized like weather effects, so it's pretty good.
And attack wise, obviously he's got multi attack as he's translating 13, of course. He hits with a big sword or can throw a rock, and both hurt loads.
I don't know if we've done anything else that's had throw rock, that attack that a lot of monsters have, but it always has like a different number. It always has a different amount of damage. I guess the rocks come in different shapes and sizes.
He can pick up a much bigger rock.
I guess he's just hefting like a big old boulder, isn't he?
But yeah, he can't multi-attack with a rock.
No,
that's a very fair point. He's not got martial rock training.
I guess it's so they have an option, so you can't just like kite them with like
exactly. Give him a range.
Because obviously at that level, like parties, even though he's very mobile, parties could be more mobile. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do to yourself.
Control weather, just to quickly say, it's an 8th level spell, which I didn't realise. I didn't know it was that high level. Concentration up to 8 hours. Yeah, so you can do a bunch of things to change the weather essentially.
Like make a constant storm above a mountain or something.
Exactly. Yeah. That is something I was kind of surprised by, that the storm giant doesn't have like lair stuff. I kind of thought it would. It seems like an obvious choice, but it does not have any lair things. Though I think, obviously having a constant storm here and all that sort of thing makes sense.
We can also just go on the fact there's a lot of monsters in 5th edition that don't have lair stuff that could probably do with it.
That is true. Yeah, it's a cool.
They tend to want to save it for like the
dragons.
Very select few.
All the dragons.
I would also say that it's kind of strange this guy doesn't have Call Lightning as a spell.
Yeah,
because he has
a lightning strike.
A lightning strike attack, which is on a recharge,
which is awesome. 500 feet range.
500 feet range.
DC 17, 12 D8.
12 D8 is high, but it's not the highest.
But he hurls it 500 feet.
500 feet is loads. That is true.
That's like the gun, like max
That is
range.
true. Because I'm comparing that to like Dragon Breath, which kind of average out to like 60, 70 damage, some of them. So this is averaging on 54, but it is 500 feet is a lot, and a recharge 5 to 6. That's okay. It's not there's a good chance they'll get that back.
But
and 500 feet. So again, planning that out, having that long range could be seeing him a long way away and going like, oh, has he
noticed us?
Have you guys played Shadow of the Colossus?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of the final Colossus where he's this pillar at the end of this like maze you've got to run through, and then whenever you poke your head up, he shoots laser beams at you.
Dude, the one that's imprisoned.
Yeah.
Oh, he's sick, dude. He's so scary.
So you could have a similar thing to that with this. Or you could be fighting, say, a kraken underwater a kraken's resistant to lightning. Find something big and scary underwater that you don't like, and then from 500 feet away you didn't notice in the dark underwater, a lightning bolt strikes it. So it could be cool either way, either as a distant threat or as a bit of a Deus Ex Machina, as it were. But it's a good point. Call Lightning is an obvious addition to that. Yeah.
Because you take control of the storm with Call Lightning.
Yeah.
I
feel with their prophecy stuff being like a big part of their. It'd be nice if like Augury was in there as like an at-will spell.
Oh yeah.
Augury, or again like their connection to their like actual god being like severed might be the reason for not having that sort of thing. But I would have them have something like that, because it'd be cool to have, like, you ask a question of this giant prophet, and then he rolls these not dice, but he throws these things around and then goes wheel or woe, and like and it's like, what does he mean?
I hope my D&D party aren't watching, but they're basically going to do that encounter very soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're going to a floating city.
Should I leave this in?
Yeah, why not? They're not good.
Sure.
I don't think any of them are going to watch this late.
Phew. Good.
But yeah, they
I mean, no, bad. They should watch it.
Everyone should watch Challenge Raiders.
follow us on Twitter.
Yeah.
They're going to a floating abandoned cloud city place.
Yeah.
Bespin.
Yeah, and at the top of it is a lone giant who's casting the runes over and over again.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
And he's gonna be able to give them prophecy,
Yeah, exactly.
And, it's quite cool because I've mapped the abandoned city, so
Sure, yeah.
it's like harpies are like nesting in the rafters and stuff like that.
That's fun. And you get like gargoyles or whatever.
Exactly.
That sort of thing. I think the prophecy thing, the prophet angle is an interesting one, just because at a low level, if you think about like prophet things that you could use, you could, for example, use hags. Like they go find a group of hags and they ask them for some wisdom and they give them some riddles, and are evil. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with having like a higher level or like a custom, like ability wise, NPC who's a human ancient prophet kind of thing, or like an elf, whatever. That's all fine. But I think also the idea of like tracking down a giant, like who's a unbelievably old, unbelievably powerful. I mean, for like a low level party, unbelievably powerful at least.
I think he'll give a run for the money for any character at any level.
That is true, yeah. 13 is not nothing, and he's got a decent health pool. But yeah, I think that's it's a good fun thing. In fact, the campaign, or the one-off, the mini campaign my brother ran, his first ever campaign over Christmas, we did indeed go deep into a lake, and in which there was a storm giant just sitting down there, sort of just hanging around waiting, and not really realizing how much time had passed, and was mistaking us for someone from hundreds of years before. It's like, oh, is that you? Like, oh no, okay.
All you little folk look the same.
Yeah, exactly, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love it.
That is one thing. You can have them. You can kind of have them anywhere that's like weirdly out of the way, and that's true of all giants. But it's like especially true of storm giants who like seek this solitude in their lore. So have them like, oh, you got to go on the quest to this really, really annoying, hard to get to place, because that's where they've like holed up. And you got to get some, and that's why I'm annoyed that they don't have something like divination or augury, because that, I mean, you would give them basically something like that.
Right there is
exactly.
That,
yeah. You would give them that because you'd want them to have an answer. You wouldn't give them that not thinking, oh well, they're not gonna know.
Yeah, it feels this creature does fill that role really well. I mean, I said myself, I'm using it for that purpose.
Yeah.
There is another creature that kind of does fill that role as well, which I'm just checking right now. Is like the Sphinx.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
like
another good choice.
Some ancient creature that can impart wisdom.
Yeah.
Or like when you start getting, this is the perfect entry to high level monster. Like we seek this guy out to tell us of the God Sword. That kind
and as
of
well
thing.
as well as a good creature like a storm giant is a good one that you can introduce the concept of powerful creatures early, because they can show up and you can meet them when you're very low level
and they won't murder everything.
And they won't just kill you. And you won't have to be like, well, they won't kill you because you're beneath them, which is always a reason that I don't especially like, although it has its place. Especially in D&D with like numbers like that at a level. When you're like level like 3, some guy rolling like 8 D12s of lightning damage is like,
yeah.
Like, I don't want to see that never again.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and the Gyno Sphinx has a spell which I think that this guy would perfectly fit for him to have, which is Legend Lore.
Yeah, Legend Lore again. It's just odd that they don't.
Maybe that's just why they're trained in history. You can just imagine
that's
that
what
this
I'm
guy
saying,
knows it.
Yeah, maybe
it's not that they're using a spell; they just know it.
Well,
they've just seen it. and observed it, and they know things. Yeah.
And earlier on, we're saying like they're obsessed with like prophecy and oracles and omens, but they're just reading into it. They're not actually using anything magical. I mean, based on their rules, they're not using any magical sense or like
maybe more than Norse. These guys are Greeks.
Yeah, I think they can fit either because there's the idea of titans. And, I think it ties very
and fitting in with that. Imagine if you had a divination wizard in your party and a storm giant seeks you out to read his fortune.
No, that could be cool. Yeah, I'm thinking like there's the there's the artifact table of the DMG where it's like, and one of the like major detriments is things looking for you to get the artifact back. Picking up something that makes a storm giant go like, hang about, I gotta go find this guy and like tell him his like huge destiny, and then he gets out of his like chair, dust cascading off him, cobwebs breaking, and then he like he jumps off his mountain, feather falls, and then runs across the landscape,
sprinting 100 feet around.
That could be cool. It'd be very silly, but it could be cool.
I was thinking as well about like because of events happen when something extraordinary happens, like in D&D.
Yeah.
Something cool. You could have something unprecedented event where two storm giants are meeting up.
Yeah,
like some ancient like agreement or something is coming into fruition, and it's like we don't know what this is for, but this can't be good.
Yeah, meeting of two groups is like something's going on here, something odd's going on.
And you could tell a story of those tragic things, like maybe another adventuring party slayed a giant and stole his money on some other continent. And these two giants are meeting up to talk about killing all the little people so that they don't have to... That won't happen to them.
We got to make sure they don't go around getting into trouble.
It's exactly like the Stellaris analogy. Sorry if no one's ever played that game, but there's a mechanic in that game where there are empires that start on the map which are ancient and have fallen into disrepair, but once certain things start happening, they can wake up.
And they start warring with each other over like who should run the universe for these poor idiots.
Exactly, or just against anyone else who's an upstart.
I will also say the Quintessence doesn't even have any spells. It has its unique abilities. No soothsaying in that rubbish. Imagine the future you could read in the entrails of a dragon if you were a soothsayer giant.
Oh.
That could be cool. I'll read your future. Go kill me this beast so I can read its entrails.
Go kill me Tusk Varg of Death Pass.
And then it's so funny because they're not doing any magic. They are literally just doing like real life.
They're doing like real augury.
They're just guessing or figuring out, because again, long lives, things have patterns and repeats. History repeats itself. Yada yada. There's no reason the Storm Giant... I mean, they probably don't think of it like that, but there's no reason they wouldn't be able to sort of predict what's going on based on their long, experienced lives.
You could have a Storm Giant that's been cutting a path of destruction in a straight line across some kingdom, where he is just walking to go to an oracle.
Yeah.
Like, no, but like in real life, like the oracles of Delphi, he's just going to his oracle.
Yeah.
And it's like, he goes that he just thought one day, I haven't been there for a while, and it's been like 1,000 years.
That could
There's a few villages in the way.
It could be a cool NPC to have who is like the mouth of a storm giant, essentially, who like dealed out prophecy on behalf of a giant, and then you're like, where you getting all this arcane knowledge from? It's like, this giant on the mountain tells me. Moses comes down from the mountain with his prophecies on these tablets.
There's this burning bush, and...
There's a burning bush.
What class would that be? Would that be a sorcerer?
There's a giant soul sorcerer, which I actually really like that one.
Rune Knight.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of subclasses now that are
so many
giant-flavoured, because, again, giants is cool. People like them. People like Vikings these days, what with... Vikings, the show, I guess, and
people like gritty fantasy, and nothing is more gritty than Vikings.
It's true, and they were the most fantasy of the real life men with weapons.
Yeah. They blur the line the most because it's so long ago.
They went on adventures,
and they went on big adventures in their boats,
and they were pagan. Anyhow,
and pagans are fantasy.
They hated Christianity, which is very in.
I'm trying to figure out if I prefer that, because originally I thought that's dumb, but now I like it more that the Storm Giant doesn't actually have any powers of prophecy beyond just thinking that they do. I quite like that. And it also means that they are more fallible, which makes them more interesting. Like, again, what we've got in our meta plot is a Storm Giant who has been, for the better word, he's been tricked. He's been misled by a trickster, by this Oni. And that would be harder to justify if they actually had, like, divine sense.
Oh, you're lying. You're wrong.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. So I think that makes them more interesting. But also, it is weird that they don't have it.
I
can have both of those opinions.
I get you in every single way, but we had to. But even us, who run we run a show talking about monsters. It took us a while to talk through and figure that out.
Yeah. And it's only one reading of it as well. If you're a new DM and you were looking at this and you read that and you're like, cool, that sounds great. I'll put Storm Giant in, and then you got to a position where you're like, oh, I'm gonna do that. Then you would have to make up rules about future reading on your own, which wouldn't be the worst because you'd probably just have a predetermined response.
Yeah, you just be like, well, he's just going to do this, unlike codified ceremony. There's no mechanics to it. He does magic,
exactly,
and then he gives the party the nugget of info that they need.
But if you don't have the experience, and you wouldn't know, as you say, things like legend lore, which you wouldn't necessarily think about that. So if a player says, "Oh, can you tell me about this?" and holds up an artifact, and you might go, no, or sure, and then have to make up something on the fly that you're not really keen on or not prepared for. So I think it would be cool, maybe if there was a variant of it, because there are spellcaster variants of other classes, or how the vampire had the spellcaster variant. Have a Storm Giant variant who is just who has these divination powers. I think that would be totally fine and wouldn't require any extra
Storm Giant
work.
seer.
Really. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Maybe an abdicated king kind of character who he actually has the magic, so now he's not sitting on the thrones anymore. He's
Yeah.
I'm thinking of how the mind flayers that get magic aren't in the mind flayer colony.
That's right.
They're kicked out, aren't they?
The Storm Giant who can actually do divination stuff isn't in the Ordning anymore.
It's especially even within the Ordning, but then even higher up, because again it is. This is this guy's so important V2. And so strong that this guy's. He's above the king or whatever. He's he's the guy that the king goes and talks to when the king needs to have something sorted out. I shouldn't act without this guy's permission. That could be quite interesting.
The patriarch, or matriarchs, and that says they can't be women.
Yeah, and there's nothing against that in there.
There's a lot to unpack with giants, and going straight in with Storm Giant means we're not gonna go through everything that giants do, because it'd be an hour and a half video. We did one of those, and we're not doing it again.
No, exactly.
I think we've covered it pretty well so far.
I think so.
I mean, what we've talked about, we've covered, but it's just that we could keep exploring different avenues.
We haven't talked about the giant's bag, which they have, which is in, I think, Guide to Everything, and we're not going to talk about what might be in a giant's bag.
I think that's for hill giants, isn't it?
Hill giant, yeah. I don't know. Any giant can have a bag when it's travelling.
That is true. Full of foot.
That is
it's a tombstone quote there. Any giant can have a bag.
We're not talking about the bag.
No bag talk. I was just looking at the Sphinx, just to bring this up again. It's not about the Sphinx, but the Sphinx fills the role of an actual augury character.
Sure.
So the spells that, if you were to run this for the people at home and you wanted that kind of character, literally just copy the Sphinx's spells right here, because it has identify, detect magic. It acts as what we are exactly describing.
Yeah.
So if you
maybe even a Storm Giant could direct you to a Sphinx.
That's cool.
What you need is beyond my looking at birds and going, oh, I think it's going to be cold. You need a wizard.
You need definitions, not my experience in history.
Yeah.
You need definition, not premonition. In real life, Spartan kings famously did a lot of animal sacrifice for prophecies.
Yeah.
Any time they marched or anything, they had to have a flock of sheep just for sacrifices.
Yeah.
And I think one sheep in every litter had to be given to the king because there were so many so many sheep sacrifices going on. Any decision in a battle or anything had a sacrifice. So the idea of somebody completely obsessed with prophecy.
Yeah.
That like he won't stand up without reading the omens.
Yeah. And it's very intriguing to say, but it's very Norse in that like Odin is obsessed with his prophecy for like to the point where he's like, no, you can't kill Fenrir because he's gonna kill me according to my prophecy. So you can't kill him because that'll ruin my prophecy. It's like
It won't work out.
Yeah, it's very odd. Let's think about numbers. Traditionally, when something's been great, we've given like a 16, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's there.
No, I don't think so either.
And I'm thinking it's not. It's got some like control weather. Yeah, that's good. Should have that. And I like the featherfall. I like that it's amphibious. Actually, I think that puts it up more for me because it means it's usable in a couple different ways.
Yeah.
And I think it's like unexpected. You don't think like, oh yeah, of course. Why couldn't it be like a sea giant? Like, I think that's actually quite interesting. I'm like floating around a 15.
Yeah.
Or like a 14. Or
I had
15,
14 in my mind, but I could go 15.
So I got to 13 based purely on its lore.
Yeah.
And then looking through its sheet, I love the throw lightning stuff. It's such long range, like Zeusing it.
Yeah, it's cool, yeah.
Yeah, so that definitely earned it another point to 14 for me. I had the exact same path you had in your mind of, I now really like that he doesn't have these powers for my use. Like,
but he should have them, though. It's the thing. It should be there.
But if you want to play him real, he should have those, because you run the risk of him telling the wrong prophecy to a meaningless prophecy to your players. Which, what's the point of that? Like,
yeah, why do it?
From like a storytelling perspective, it's interesting to have him be fallible and stuff. But if you tell something, if you set up a prophet character and then he prophesies something to your players, and then you're like, yeah, well, he's not got that spell.
He doesn't have those powers. This is a setting with dragons and giants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Even like if it's on paper like good and interesting storytelling, which it probably is, it's not fun to be wrong because you believed what you were told by the DM. Because when you're told by the DM, he's a prophet, and then he says something, and you don't always believe what NPCs say to you. But I think if they're a good NPC and
there's no reason why you shouldn't really.
There's no reason why you shouldn't believe them if it's been set up in the way that the lore sets up to be.
The archetypal way that this is
Yeah.
presented to you in the book.
Yeah, yeah.
So having a spell that just says that it kind of happens kind of helps with that.
Exactly, yeah.
Just sells it a little bit.
I'm going to join 15. The traditional spot of 16, I feel, would have been for the Prophet King Storm Giant.
I think if it had all the spells it should have, like Call Lightning, if it had all the divination spells, and maybe if there was, I don't know, one other little thing, I think that could have really pushed it up to 16.
I think if it had an item.
I'd like it to have one more unique thing in like that stat block.
You know how like the hags have the hag's eye and
That's
all
exactly what I'm saying, yeah.
Like, if it had something
Giant
like that,
runes.
it's the giant bag.
No.
And it needs the giant bag.
It's this giant bag. Do you guys want to see the picture?
I do,
Yes,
actually.
I'd love to see a picture.
I guess there's technically two jokes, but there's a visual joke.
A visual. Before anybody who hasn't gotten to this point, if you leave the comment of the visual joke.
Then you get a free ticket to Disneyland from Disney if you ask him, and he gives you one.
Yeah.
Walt Disney.
From
he'll
Idris
give you one.
Elba.
Idris Elba or Walt Disney. Anyway, I'm uploading.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. There's two jokes. I mean, there's an obvious joke, and then there's a second joke. There you go.
I love the text.
Well, the text, that's the obvious
Yeah.
joke. All the texts have been jokes in the previous things.
I love the sword.
Yeah, the sword's fun.
Just it's exactly like Norman's.
Yeah.
It's a similar design.
Yeah.
It's in the intro. The other joke is it's a storm in a teacup.
Nice.
He's looking in, and he's doing that. See, that's a magic item. He's got a magic teacup with the storm in it, and he's looking into that. I thought that could be interesting.
That's really cool. Yeah,
that was
I like that.
thing.
This guy's giving me some Gwyn vibes.
He's very Gwyn, isn't he? I kind of didn't even notice that until he just said it, but yeah, he's very, very Gwyn.
And Gwyn is awesome. So
yeah,
Gwyn is like
it's only plus points.
Gwyn is literally this, isn't he?
Gwyn is Norse Zeus, and that's what the Storm Giant is.
Yeah.
Except he's much taller than Gwyn.
Oh yeah.
So there you go.
I love it. I love the armor with the. Oh, he's so good.
Got some runes on him. Big sandals.
I love the braids. I love the idea that, maybe his hair never stopped growing.
Yeah, he just sits up here, like, looking out over something and go like, okay.
Oh,
I mean, I guess they have to eat. Maybe they don't. It's not really clear about which monsters. Some monsters like to eat.
Yeah.
They like to eat babies and stuff. But it doesn't say, storm giants have to get, like, 90,000 calories a day, otherwise they die of starvation.
Which I guess someone that big would need.
Yeah.
I love the golems in the background with the full covers on.
Yeah, it was a tattered one.
Yeah.
Down on
like
the way
a
up.
cloak,
Because
yeah.
more exposed to the elements. But these ones are fully robed up.
So Norman's about to just push him off the cliff, right? And he's going to further fall down.
Norman recounts the events of the last week to the Storm Giant. The Behir attacking, the Orcs raiding Ton upon Henge, the warpath that they left in his name, and then his journey up the mountain. The Storm Giant listens intently for a while. When Norman describes the treachery of the Oni, who had been deceiving the Storm Giant's eyes furrow down and glow bright with anger. Suddenly, up the path that Norman had travelled, the wizard yet again appears, an Oni in disguise. "My lord, please, don't believe a word he has said."
Silence! No more lies from you.
The Storm Giant holds up a hand and a giant lightning bolt forms, and he casts it. The Oni is obliterated.
Now that's that problem dealt with. Good. It feels good to be good. Doing good is what I do best.
Chaotically.
Yes. I guess, I wonder about the possibilities of having a giant with a kind of a music. I mean, like Disney's Zeus. It'd be weird to have them being anything other than quite solemn, but I think it could be quite funny to have them.
Turns, looks at him, leans down. There's full of presents. Tell me a joke.
Yeah.
It's been ages since I've heard a joke.
Got any good prophecy? Any good prophecies lately? Oh, go on, boy. But yeah, so I think after that, all the orcs have obviously already run away. What with them not getting paid anymore, and they've met their match with the flying sword and
they
punch
got
them off a
hiding.
cliff. I think Norman looks around for Reckless Aban's body, finds nothing. So who knows what's happened to him? Maybe he's crawled away. Who knows? And that more or less concludes this season vis-a-vis the plot. I don't know, trying something different. I think it's worked to a certain extent. There's things that could be improved. So Norman, he'll grab his stuff, he'll take off his torn up coat, and he'll go find another adventure in some other season. Taking on some new challenges.
Maybe
of course, you guys. Next week, you guys have got to draw something for me
Oh,
it's been a long time. It's not. It's been since Minotaur. Remember Minotaur? 3 months ago.
I remember that.
I remember Flying Sword.
Oh yeah.
So you guys have got to draw something for me.
Oh, I'm looking forward to Sam being really, really scared and
Really-
upset,
really-
and then drawing
really
something better than me. I'm looking forward to that.
It's gonna be.
Oh,
Um.
guys, I'm getting a prophecy.
What's that?
You should subscribe to Drawing Delvers.
Let me just look at my own. I'm gonna cut myself open, look at my entrails, and go, oh, I love that. I like that a lot.
Thumbs up.
There's I don't know.
Leave your.
You should.
Why don't you? Oh god, this is gonna be divisive.
There's a storm coming. Why don't you comment?
Why don't you put us in order based on the ordering? in the comments.
Oh, please.
Tell us-
Yeah, or give
I don't
us
wanna be
give
at
us
the bottom.
give us a tier list of your
of your challenge raters hosts.
challenge
Don't do
raters
that.
hosts. Yeah,
Don't do that.
It
Don't do
includes
that.
Norman though.
yeah, Norman's in there,
Norman's
and Raj
obviously-
is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raj, best host.
Raj better be at the top.
Only super fans will know.
Manticore.
Best host Raj. The Manticore. Chimera.
Chimera.
Sorry. Chimera.